Hello, everyone. Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is the 20th of March, 2022. Click on the subscribe button here in the lower right to subscribe to future episodes, and also the notification bell in the far upper right to be notified when new episodes are released. Today's episode is Foundations of Evil. About 18 months ago, Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney remarked that the removal of Confederate statues would not cost his city's taxpayers any money because nonprofit donors were readily available to provide the funds. About the same time, the Mellon Foundation announced a $250 million grant-making effort, quote, to reimagine and transform commemorative spaces to celebrate America's diverse history, close quote. Translated to plain English, that meant that the principal objective of the foundation was to give Stoney and others like him the money they needed to destroy Confederate monuments and promote cultural genocide against the South. Now, according to Luke Rosiak, other so-called charitable foundations, Kellogg, Ford, Rockefeller, and Carnegie, are the chief donors to Democrat school board election candidates seeking to disseminate critical race theory throughout America's educational system. Although such foundations are supposed to be do-gooders, they were typically organized to avoid inheritance taxes for the family descendants. They are staffed by cultural elites whose conduct underscores the ancient wisdom, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Although all of us treasure some memories of influential teachers from our youth, today's education majors enter college with the lowest college board scores of any major, but graduate with the highest grade point averages. After graduation, they start their careers in a system of teaching that is corrupted by teachers' unions that are determined to avoid responsibility for job performance and demand that pay be based on seniority and worthless academic credentials such as their education degrees rather than competence. Even though only 25% of high school students are proficient at reading, nearly all teachers typically get, quote, outstanding job performance reviews. The unions always claim that the solution for poor student performance is more money for teachers and administrators. Even though many teachers are not union members, unfortunately, they seldom object to union agendas. Few Americans realize how much taxpayer money is spent on education. Consider Washington, D.C., a place where reading proficiency is even below the low national average. Washington spends $30,000 per child on public education, which is less than private. That means that taxpayers are paying $120,000 a year to educate the children of a family with 4 children in public school. If that family is headed by a single parent, the $120,000 figure is not only larger than the family probably pays in taxes of all kinds, but it is quite likely, most likely, larger than the breadwinner earns as income for the entire year. Consider that if the $120,000 were paid directly to the parent, he or she could hire a PhD to come to the house each day to tutor the family's 4 children and probably keep another $20,000 for himself or herself, meaning the parent. The teachers' unions are obsessed with lecturing about so-called racial equity, a euphemism for critical race theory and other similar doctrines such as anti-racism. And they do this to pretend that they are doing something both noble and useful while disguising their failure to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, and other truly valuable, useful disciplines. Organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center provide such teachers with essays that will satisfy the currently low standards for class reading. Yet the essays are generally nothing more than indoctrinations into critical race theory, so-called anti-racism, and identity victimhood. Simultaneously, the facts show that the USA ranks 30th in math proficiency out of 36 industrialized nations. This is such a condemning statistic. It obviously shows a lot of reasons to be concerned about our future as a country. The obsession with race has led the teachers unions to and their race hustling allies into a place where they really don't know what they want sometimes. They sometimes simply argue against the status quo, whatever the status quo is. According to Rosiak, for example, one school board concluded that, quote, special needs classes had to reduce the number of Blacks because their disproportionate representation was racist, since it stigmatized Black children. Yet another school district came to the opposite conclusion, that they needed more Black students in the special needs classes because an increase in the number of students yielded an extra taxpayer funding for the district. Now, if you want to keep critical race theory and other poisonous doctrines that demean America's traditional values of equality of opportunity and personal responsibility out of the schools, vote against all Democrat candidates in your local school board elections, and do not neglect to vote in those elections when they do not happen to fall at the same time as fall on the same date as a general election. A lot of what I'm discussing here today is part of what you can find in The Dreadful Frauds, Critical Race Theory and Identity Politics, my newest book, available for $16 on Amazon, $6 in Amazon Kindle. If you want an autographed copy, email me, Phil_Leigh, L-E-I-G-H @me.com. The Dreadful Frauds. This book is really important. There is no chance that Confederate memorials can remain standing, or that a school like Washington and Lee will keep the name of Lee in that school if critical race theory becomes an accepted standard for the explanation of how our society is shaped and how our country's history was formed. This is important. Get the book. And if you like it, give it a 5-star rating. It really helps us out. Okay, that's Phil. That's my show for today, and I look forward to seeing you soon next time.